Cara, this week's episode is very special in many ways because we recorded it right after finishing the book exactly a year ago.
Like literally exactly a year ago. We are flashing back.
And it's probably as you have never heard us or seen us before. We are like giddy. Cara in particular is giddy. You may hear some laughter from her that sounds completely different than any other laughter you've ever heard from her.
You sound possessed, Vanessa. We replayed it.
You sound amazing. Cara's like, please delete all sounds of me laughing. And I'm like, no. Keep all the sounds of her laughing. They're hysterical, literally hysterical.
I was the personification of a tween mood swing that day on the, my hysterical laughing couldn't stop. And you have the affect of someone who has just been hit by a Mack truck. You're just like, it's so funny.
I was very exhausted by you.
Yes, you were. I mean, for weeks you were exhausted by me. And that is the spoiler alert of this episode. I made us record this episode, which you mentioned several times during the episode. I made us.
But you were right. No, you were right. I was like, oh, I don't really want to record this. And you're like, I promise. It's like what we say to our children all the time.
Journal on the trip. And they're like, no, I'm not writing down what we did today. Yes,
Mom.
Exactly. But we wrote down what we did today.
We wrote down what we did today. So I'm here to thank Cara for forcing us to record the episode because it is gold. It is so amazing. It captures a moment in time so beautifully and so joyfully and with so much relief.
And the reason that we recorded it was not just for ourselves, although we did record it.
Although it was really fun.
It was really fun. But we really recorded it so that we could play it a year later in advance of the publication of our book. So, those of you who listen know we have a book coming in a month. And we wanted to bring people into the process and not just dedicate this entire podcast to the content, which is really our first and most primary goal. But really, we wanted to bring people into the process and have them understand how we work together, because obviously we live on two sides of the country. We Zoom all day, every day. And the sort of moments that most people are not aware of are laid bare in this episode.
And when we say bare, we mean bare.
So enjoy the listen. Give us feedback. Tell us what you think.
No, don't give us feedback because there's nothing we can do about this particular episode.
Happy book turn-in birthday, Vanessa.
Happy birthday. It's really a beautiful mess in all the ways that living through this stage of life can be when you're raising kids. And Cara, I would do it all over again. Enjoy, everybody.
Hi, Vanessa.
I am so giddy and punch drunk. Is that a word? I think that's a word, right?
I think it is a word. It might be two words.
It might be two words. Or a phrase.
Okay. As a timestamp, the moment, I always wanted to be a journaler, not a journalist.
I suck at journaling.
But I really wanted to be a journaler so I could look back on moments and, go, oh, that was an amazing day that I never would have remembered if I'd written down, right? So we are recording this episode on September 6th, 2022. As a verbal journal entry, because we just turned in our first collaborative book.
Dear Diary.
Dear Diary. And so we're gonna record how we feel today. And we could talk about, we're gonna journal why we wrote a book in 3 months, and why we might have written 35,000 too many words.
Because we can't help ourselves.
Because Vanessa's motto is, why use one word when you can use 35,000?
Wait, you just skipped to the punchline of this entire episode. So I'm a little verbose.
I took your takeaway. So we are taking a moment to record all of our thoughts now in our letter to ourselves. Vanessa, how do you feel? You just finished your first book.
Yeah. So Cara's written 1,000 books, and I've written now one book to be published, God willing. Thank you, Marnie. How does it feel? It feels really thrilling. We worked incredibly hard. We did it together, like word by word by word, and with the help of our awesome interns. It doesn't feel real. It's kind of like when you're pregnant, but like you're not telling anyone yet. It doesn't totally feel real. I guess when you've written a book, but like it's not out in the world, it doesn't totally feel real. But I have to be honest, the process of writing it was so fun and so interesting. And I learned so much. I learned so much about the content that we cover in our work. I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about you that
I'm so relaxed and I never have a schedule.
That you're just like so chill and like fly by the seat.
When people say Cara, they just think chill.
Just like, why wasn't she cast in Dazed and Confused?
I have two completely separate answers and I want to give them both. So here we go.
You're allowed.
Answer number one is this was the most fun book I've ever written. Hands down. Because the first 3 books I wrote on my own, alone. And it's very isolating and wonderful. And you feel really proud of yourself, but it's very isolating. The next several books I wrote were all with American Girl, which is very team oriented. And so I learned the skills necessary to collaboratively create a book with a whole team. And then I went back to Decoding Boys, which I wrote alone in 2018. And that was when I turned to my husband and said, never let me write another book because A, it's lonely, and B, the parenting space is so crowded and I don't want one more piece of advice in the parenting space. Of course, we have a podcast and we just written a book and there's a whole company, but I didn't want to do it alone anymore because it was not fun. And this was all the collaboration that I had had at American Girl and then some. The last 3 days of the book writing process before we turned in, we have to describe the last, and then I'm going to give my second answer to your question in a second.
Okay, we won't
But the
forget.
Last 3 days, Vanessa, you thought I was crazy because
no, I didn't think you were crazy. I did not think you were crazy. I deferred to you because you had done this before and I had not. I just wasn't aware. So, dear listener, you should be aware of this. The due date for the book was September 6th, which is the day that we are recording the episode. However, Cara and I turned in our book 3 days early because we cannot help ourselves.
No. It's because it was Labor Day weekend and we had burned it on both ends so hard that we recognized if we went into a long holiday weekend and hid away in our offices and we're on Zoom with each other all weekend, our families might finally commit us. And I was not willing to do that. So no, I knew we needed to be done.
We earned the weekend. This is how Cara said we needed to do the last. So we'd written the whole book and
barely
like in a fever dream.
And that's going to be my second answer. So we're going to get back to that. But yes.
And it was a moment where we had written everything, but then we needed to go back word for word and line by line and make sure, because when you are writing about puberty and adolescence and parenting and families, word choice is extraordinarily important because we want it to be inclusive. We want it to be accurate. We want it to be as clear as possible. And so we literally went.
We wanted it to make sense, which some parts might not.
We wanted it to make sense, but we also it's scary because the chances that you're going to offend someone or hurt someone's feelings or get it wrong particularly on topics that are so of the moment and so evolving and changing. So we went word for word and line by line. We spent a collective 20 hours on Zoom.
At least, because I said to Vanessa, we are going to turn it in at the end of day Friday. So we need a minimum of all day Wednesday, all day Thursday, all day Friday that we can be on Zoom and we can read a chapter, edit a chapter in Google Drive where we could see each other's edits, go off mute on Zoom, talk about things, get everything fixed in a chapter, and then move to the next. We had 20 chapters. So I was like 7, 7, 6, and we're barely going to get through. And Vanessa says, that sounds great. I only have my first physical exam that I've had in 5 years.
10 years.
10 years, the opening varsity soccer game, parents' night, and a Harry Styles concert. But I'm really good. I am totally available to you. And I started laughing. I'm like, you have no idea what you're saying yes to. This is going to be the hardest 3 days of your life. And you're like, oh, no, this is good. Because I have 4 kids. I can juggle anything. Oh my God, poor Vanessa. By Friday morning, I thought I was going to have to peel you off a wall post Harry Styles concert.
Cara was like, I'm working you too hard, aren't I? Well, mostly what happened was I got a text from her that was like, so I need you to slow down in your editing because you're asking me questions that you're missing. And I was like, I feel like my kids, when I look at their tests that they like bomb and they've like completely missed the instructions. And so I was like,
okay. In fairness, you needed that text because there was a reference to an anatomical part. And I can't remember what it was. I think it was the pineal gland. Okay, yeah. It was the pineal gland. And I wrote in the sentence, the pineal gland is located deep in the brain and it does blah, blah, blah. In the pineal gland, blah, 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 blah. And you highlighted in the pineal gland in the second sentence and you wrote in the comment, what is the pineal gland and where is it located? And so I texted
so I was
you.
a little tired. I also got up after spending all night at a Harry Styles concert at 6 a.m. to finish editing.
But it was midtown hotel.
In a midtown hotel with my daughter asleep in the hotel bed. And I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't have missed the Harry Styles concert and I wouldn't have missed frantically finishing this book in time for Labor Day weekend.
Okay, but then this begs the second part of the answer. The frantic, right?
The frantic, the fever dream.
So this book, we sold this book in May of 2022. And what it means to sell a book in nonfiction is that you write a proposal and you come up with a really catchy title, which is really important, and a summary of what it is you plan to do and a table of contents. And sometimes you write a sample chapter, or if you've already worked with the editor, maybe you don't have to, but you have to make your case for the book. You have to know what else is on the market. You have to understand if there are other people writing about the same thing because the publisher doesn't want to publish that. We did all of that in May of 2022. And we sold the book. And we had a plan to start writing June 1st of 2022. And then we did some math. And the math was...
We meaning Cara did some math.
we/Cara did some math. And the math was based upon the contract we were signing. We had 15 months to write the book. And then we would turn it in September 2023. And it would be published in September 2024. And just as sort of a marker in time, note that the next presidential election is in November of 2024. When I published Decoding Boys, it was in the beginning of 2020. Not a great time to publish, just given COVID. Everything shut down 3 weeks after I published. If that wasn't enough, the media cycle gets very, very crowded around presidential elections. And so I said to Vanessa, no way are we publishing 2 months before a presidential election because we won't find any space. No one will know about our book. And so we went to our agent, Heather, whom we love, and to our editor, Marnie, whom we love. And we said, what will it take to get the book out in 2023? And Marnie and Heather said, ha, 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 you have to turn it in September 2022. And Vanessa had never written a book. And so I said to Vanessa, oh, it's totally doable. like as if it's
And
a
I was like
normal
the
thing.
younger sibling who's like, okay, I'll go jump out of that tree. No problem.
So it's really not doable, but we did it. We did it.
We did it.
We did it. We did it in 3 months. And I think part of it is because we wrote what we knew. We researched a ton. We spoke with so many people. But at the end of the day, if you live in the space and you're podcasting about it and you're blogging about it and you're posting about it on social media and you're in these
and
topics
you're
constantly,
living it daily with your own family.
And you're living it. I mean, it wasn't like we had to go, do some deep dive anthropological data collection here. This was our wheelhouse. So we turned in, we sold a 65,000 word book. We did turn in a few more words than that in our 3 months.
A few more, meaning 35,000 more words.
We had a lot to say.
Also, as Car pointed out, my philosophy is why say something in 3 words when you can say it in 12? Yes, and why say it with 1 verb when you can say it with 3 verbs?
I've never met anyone who can string 3 verbs together back to back. Like she's the verb lover of all time, Vanessa.
Well, I mean, I'm just a lot of a person. I'm a lot of a person, including the way that I write.
A lot of verbs.
A lot of verbs, a lot of volume, a lot of V words. I'm very verbose.
Vanessa's
very verbose. What I want to ask you is, besides my verbosity, which I think is a word, if not, I just made it up. What is one thing that you learned about me writing this book?
I learned several things about you. But one thing I learned.
What's one flattering thing?
No, they're all flattering. They're all flattering. Like I've never had an experience where I've worked with someone so intensely and every single day at the end of the day, I say, oh my God, thank God it's that person who I'm working with. So, but I learned a lot of things about you. One of the things I learned about you is you are one of the hardest workers I've ever met in my life. You just don't know until we work together every day on umlaw stuff, but you don't know how hard someone can work. I also learned that the reason this was so fun is that you ask yourself different kinds of questions in life and in writing than I ask myself.
Oh, and it's so interesting.
It makes it fun. We split the content of the book where I took a lot of the science and you took a lot of the how to turn the science into conversation. And it's because that is your sweet spot. And it is a skill set that I do not have. I can do it. I can learn it. It comes naturally to you in a way that is remarkable to watch. So when I would edit your pages and read through what you were saying, there were like 30,000 verbs on a page, but the content on there was amazing. I mean, it was,
that's so
nice. It wouldn't have ever come out of my brain, ever. So that's what I learned about you. What do you learn about me other than I'm a schedule Nazi?
Well, if you hadn't been a schedule dictator, we would never have finished this. I mean, the conversations most mornings sounded like this. Okay, here's what it didn't matter what agenda I came to the meeting with. I could have like 45,000 things that I needed to cover. And Cara would be like, okay, here's how I think we should go about it today. And then she'd like launch in and then she'd say, so what do you think about that? How do you feel about that? As if I'm going to turn around and be like, no, we should do it that way. We should do it this way. And I said to my sister, I was like, I think I finally met someone who might be as bossy as I am in going through the process. And she was like, finally, you know what it feels like, but only in the best possible way, So what did I learn? I learned that you are somehow able to take incredibly complicated science and make it linguistically interesting to a non-scientific brain. There are processes, physiological processes that you describe in the book that are so confusing and complex. And I was like, oh, this is like so interesting. And it would not have been interesting being written by someone else. The other thing I thought is, and don't take this the wrong way, but like, I was like, why the hell did she ever go to medical school? Why didn't she just become a writer to begin with? Because you are such a beautiful writer who phrases things in ways that I would never string words together. And sometimes I would read stuff and I was like, I don't think I've ever encountered words put together in that order before. And it was like it was like discovering something new when I would see your syntax. So that was really, I really loved that. It was like, I really learned a lot from you, both from reading your writing and from being gently edited.
It's true. My entire life revolves around logistical planning. It's my poor children. Like every morning, it's the schedule. I don't know. It's the way I'm wired.
I'm totally like that. But you're like a jujitsu version of my planning.
One of the things I love the most about this book is that, and I hope it doesn't get cut because we do have a few words to cut, but it's the voice of Gen Z. We have our 9 or 10 interns who participated in writing content for this book, giving advice to the adults who are raising tweens and teens from the perspective of people who've just been through it. It is amazing to work with the group that we work with. I adore them. The way we engage with them is so funny because I am my schedule self and I just want them to turn in the freaking essay that they need to write. And you, because you have this gift, you will start the meetings with them talking about how they feel and talking about how summer's going and everyone feels included. And it always ends better because that's how you start. And I'm always like, okay, I'm going to take the mental lesson and I'm not going to deal with logistics first with my kids. I'm going to check in about how they feel and everyone feels better. And then I just revert. So I'm going to take that lesson for life.
One of the coolest things about working with them is they were able to use their majors in college, many of them, to contribute to our research. So like the stuff on neuroscience uses some of their projects, or on nutrition and diet and eating disorders and STIs and all of that stuff. So that was a really cool. It made me wonder what the hell I was doing in college. Cause like I could definitely not have contributed the way, I mean, I was also an American studies major. So there's that. I wonder if that's even going to exist in like 10 years, that major.
I think it's going to be canceled.
I think it probably will be canceled. And so the other thing that I like to do, which Cara sometimes laughs at and sometimes appreciates, is I like to mark the moment. Partially because I've never done this.
You have taught me this. This is so important.
It is important. So we've had a variety of exciting things happen over the course of the year. And I have chosen... Do you want to
describe how I was when we signed the contract?
I think it was like along the lines of like, okay, great. Now let's break down every hour of every week of our summer. And I was like, Cara, can we just pause for a second and celebrate the fact that 6 weeks ago we decided we were going to write this book and now we are signing the contract for the book? And she was like, okay, yay us. Okay, now we're going to... So I will say, at the ripe old age of 46, as someone who has worked on many, many teams and worked with many, many incredible women who've taught me so much, this goes very high on my list of wonderfully enriching, nourishing, interesting experiences in collaboration. And I really, really hope and I really, really believe that it will come across when people read this book. Because ultimately, what we're talking about is about like caring for kids, and caring for kids is the most collaborative experience, and the experience where you have to learn about yourself and you have to laugh at yourself and you have to like get better at the stuff you're bad at and lean on the things that you're good at. And so I almost feel like it was like a parallel experience of doing it. And
I hope we'll write again. I mean, we write every day, but I hope we'll do something like this again. I will not ask you to do it in 3 months or pretend that that's at all normal. I'm sorry for that, Vanessa.
I don't No, it was fine. I loved it. I mean, I would probably block out the morning after a Harry Styles concert, but besides that, it was really wonderful. And I will say one last note is having my kids see me write the book and watching the process and seeing what gets sacrificed and what has to get pushed aside and how to prioritize life when working on a really big, important, meaningful project, and how proud they were of me and of us for having written it, and how proud my parents were and how proud my husband was. And I feel grateful. I mean, we haven't edited it yet, so, we'll see. But I feel grateful that I finished this process not feeling like, oh, I never want to do this again, but more like, oh, when do we get to do this again?
That's amazing that you feel that way. That makes me so happy. And I think one of the things that you modeled for your kids, but also for me, is that reminder to find the balance that you can get lost in your little mental cone. You start writing and you have a deadline and you know where you need to go and what you need to get done. And the little things with your kids can be put aside. Someone else can drive them. Someone else can do this. Someone else can do that because you got to get this stuff done. And you were really, really good at, until the last week when I was a total drill sergeant, you were really good at saying, today I'm going to stop at this time because this is really important to me to do this and this and this, but I'll come back on later and we can finish the conversation. And I learned a lot by watching how successful that was for you, because I have not been great at that in my life. And, around here in LA, when kids turn 16, many of them get driver's licenses. Everything is very spread out. It's a rite of passage, but also somewhat of a necessity. And you, as a parent, can see it as a gift. You get all this time. And I was missing, because my kids were both driving, that time that you were getting. And I actually started over the course of the summer driving them places and doing it. They're going, well, I can drive myself. Oh, no. Here I am. I'm going to drive you across town to do that thing. And because I was watching you and I was learning from you how, not just to take the gift of the extra hour, but to take the gift of the extra hour. Right.
So what you didn't witness was one of my kids coming home injured from camp at the start of soccer season, a soccer season that felt very important to her and therefore important to me. And her screwing around often on an injured ankle, and me saying to her, and I should have her come on and do this impression, because basically what I said to her was, I don't have time for this. I'm trying desperately to finish a book. And if you get injured, I am not taking you to the doctor. That was like a really winning.
That was like the time that I took away reading when I was trying to punish my kids. We've all been there. It's a low.
It was a low, but we could laugh about it and we could talk about it and they could make fun of me, which is a huge part of this process. So, Cara, in gratitude to you for being my partner in so many things, but in creating this book, which I hope and I believe will help so many people out there in the world doing their best. Yes.
A year from now, what do you think is going to happen? You think we're going to be in pre-publication? Do you think we're going to be hitting the road for our book tour?
That was my mom's question. She was like, so what's your plan for promotion? I was like, I don't know. We just finished it. I want to go everywhere. I want to talk to all of these amazing parents around this country and hear what they're dealing with and laugh with them and cry with them. The one issue, Cara, is that we are going to have 2 children applying to college next fall while we go on this book tour.
La, 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 la. I want to think about that.
I am so excited and I cannot wait. And I feel so lucky because this is like so many aspects of it are such a gift.
We'll just call it the college/book tour.
Yeah. I mean,
we'll
if
go
we
to
have
college
to
towns all over America.
I need you to want to go to the school because I need to go do a book talk in that city. Mommy's needs come first.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're going to hold on to this gem and we might even re-record. We might record something else as the moment gets closer.
Yeah. Like when we get the edits.
Oh,
I know.
I'm
It's
not
really,
I don't take constructive criticism well.
Let me just tell you, based upon what I did to your writing, you take constructive criticism really well. You handled my comments like a champ. Like a
I
champ.
think your comments were so bad.
Well, because
They
you're a
were
great
fair.
writer.
Well,
you're a great writer.
You know, the occasional comment which sounded like, can you say this in one sentence instead of 5?
Okay, I'm going to end this part of the recording with a Vanessa style send off. Should I try it?
Yes. Let's see if you can do it.
Vanessa, this was really fun talking to you on this podcast, recording this conversation about the process of writing a book and putting all of our words onto paper and experiencing what it is to be an author. I am going to go now, which means I am going to leave. It's all one sentence.
Is my whole life a run-on sentence? Is that what you just taught me?
And here's the car version. Bye.
The car version is check you later. Thanks so much.
The car
Peace
version
out.
is bye. In an hour, I will be doing the following 12 things. Vanessa, I adore you.
I adore you. Thank you, Cara.
Thank you for writing this book. That was so fun.